Hi, I'm Benny D, and in this video we're going to look at converting between square and cube units. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is go and make an assumption here that we are comfortable with converting, say, meters to centimeters. So that is 1 meter equals, can be converted to 100 centimeters. That 1 meter can be converted to 1,000 millimeters. Okay, and 1 centimeter can be converted to 10 millimeters. Okay, this is knowledge I'm assuming that you have, and that you're okay with converting between units like this. Okay. The next little bit with this, okay, is we're going to just go back a second and think about the area of a rectangle. Okay, so I've got a rectangle here. Okay, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 squares across. I'm going to say that that is 6 centimeters. And then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 squares here, and they're also centimeters. So 6 centimeters by 4 centimeters. And we find our area, okay, by simply counting up how many squares we've got in here. Okay? So if we counted them all up, okay, that would actually be the correct answer, 100%, but it's a really inefficient way of doing it. And we should remember that now that our area of our rectangle is our length times our width. Okay, and that's just our quick way of counting up our squares. And that is, in this case, 6 centimeters times 4 centimeters, which is going to give us an area of 24 centimeters squared. Okay, now what we want to do though is look at what needs to happen to convert this 24 centimeters squared, okay, into millimeters squared. Right? Now, the most common thing that students will do wrong is say that that is 240 millimeters squared. Okay, and the reason is there's some correct thinking here, but the wrong application. The correct thinking is that 1 centimeter equals 10 millimeters. Okay, so we simply times this by 10. And that works if it is just centimeters to millimeters, but we're centimeters squared to millimeters squared. So there's a bit more work that we need to do here. Okay, so let's have a look at this. Okay, let's have a look at this here. Okay, what we want to do is just look at one of our squares here. Okay, we're going to look at this square down the bottom. Now what I'm going to have to do is just rub out this big rectangle for a second, but we're zooming in on this square. We're zooming in on it. Okay, and we're going to say now that that 1 centimeter is now this big square. Right, this big square, and we can see that this is 1 centimeter and this is 1 centimeter. Okay. Now, conveniently using this grid, we can see here that our dimensions are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 by also 10. So a 10 by 10, which is quite nice because, as we said, we know that 1 centimeter equals 1 millimeter. Sorry, not 1 millimeter, 10 millimeters. Okay, and we're seeing that here. Okay, well, if we look at that now, okay, and we think back to our incorrect assumption here, that this goes to that, okay, it makes sense because we were saying this, and we were multiplying it by 10. But when we look at this, when we've got 1 centimeter squared drawn out here, okay, it's clear that that is not the same as 10 millimeters squared. There's far more than 10 millimeters here, square millimeters. In fact, here's your 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay? But what we need to do is realize that we actually have centimeters here and here. So we actually would need to convert this 1 centimeter to 10 millimeters, and this 1 centimeter to 10 millimeters. Then if we're going to work at the area of this square, it would be 10 by 10, right, which is of course 100. So 1 centimeter squared actually equals 100 millimeters squared. Okay? One centimeter squared equals 100 millimeters squared. Okay? We need to remember that. And that's because we've had to convert both dimensions of this square from 1 centimeter to 10 millimeters. So if we go back now We go back now to the original rectangle that we had, which was 6 centimeters by 4 centimeters. Right? Well, we now need to think that this 1 centimeter here we just saw, we zoomed in on it. Okay? That one there was really 10 millimeters by 10 millimeters, okay? Which gave us 100 millimeters squared. Right? So that's going to happen all the time. Okay? So if we convert this now, this centimeters to millimeters, we'd say it's 60. I would say this one is 40. Right? And we need to now work out what our area is. Right? Well, we can see that we've got 60 times 40 is not 240, it's actually 2,400 millimeters squared. Right? Now there's a problem with, sorry, I didn't slide that back up. There's a problem with with what we've got here though. Okay? Is this is making the assumption that we know what our dimensions are. We won't always know what our dimensions are, right? And it can actually be quite problematic to reverse it to actually work out what our dimensions would be. But we don't have to. We don't have to think about where this 24 centimeters came from. Okay? We don't need to think about where that came from to convert the original dimensions to get our answer. We can simply go from here to here. Okay? And there's a little trick. Okay? Now what you've hopefully you can see is that to get from 24 to 2,400, we've had to times it by 100. There's a little trick with how we can remember how to do that. Okay? The little trick. When we convert centimeters to millimeters, okay, we need to multiply by 10. Okay? That's simply, well, 1 centimeter gives us 10 millimeters. Okay, 2 centimeters times by 10 gives us 20 millimeters, and so on. That should be pretty comfortable. Okay, but remember, we had to convert, when we're doing our area, 2 of our sides, both our length and our width. That means what we need to do is when we convert from centimeters squared to millimeters squared, we need to times by 10 for our length and also times by 10 for our width. We need to convert both of our dimensions. Okay, and we can simplify this further. We can go 10 times 10, well, that's 100. So we can skip a step here and just remember that we need to multiply, okay, by 100 if we're going to convert from centimeters to millimeters squared, sorry. And if we're going to go back the other way, we need to divide by 100. We had millimeters squared and we're converting it to centimeters squared, we need to divide by 100 for the same sort of logic. Okay. Well, let's think about some of our other units now. Okay. If we were going to convert meters squared to centimeters squared, remember this is an area, so it's got length and width, right? And we know we need to convert from meters to centimeters. We need to times by 100. That will be for the length, and then times by 100 again for our width. Okay? Well, 100 times 100 is actually 10,000. Okay? So we can skip the step of doing 100 by 100 and multiply by 10,000. And go this way. If we were to convert from centimeters to meters squared, we'd have to divide by 10,000. And that's because we have to divide each of our dimensions by 100. Okay? So what we need to do is think about those dimensions, the fact that we've got a length by a width and the fact that we would need to convert both of them. When we make that incorrect assumption here that we need to go from 24 to 240, we're only times it by 10, so only actually doing the conversion once, not twice. Okay. Now, if we wanted to do some of our other ones, just think about our normal ones that we were going from meters to millimeters. Okay, at the start of the video, we said that that was times by 1,000 because 1 meter is 1,000 millimeters. So if we were going for our meters squared to millimeters squared, we're going to need to times by 1,000 for our length, times by 1,000 for our width, which means overall we're timesing by 1 million. Okay, so you can do that all in one step. Times by 1 million. And the other way is going to be divide by 1 million. Okay, so let's do a little example here. Because remember, we're not always going to have our dimensions to work with. We could simply have, okay, convert 15 meters squared, okay, to centimeters squared. Okay, so again, think about it. Okay, we need to convert meters to centimeters for our length is times by 100. Okay, by our width, we'll also go times by 100. Okay, overall, that is timesing by 10,000. Okay, so if we've got 15 times 10,000, okay, remember our easy way of doing that is 10,000 has 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. So we're going to move the decimal place 4 places to the right because we're multiplying. So here's our decimal point. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Wherever there's a dip, put a 0. Okay, so we end up with 150,000 centimeters squared. Okay, so remember we've got to convert each side of our square, okay, before we can get our conversion right. Now, how's this work then for our volume? Okay, so the difference with our volume now is we have a 3-dimensional shape like this cube here. Okay, so I've got length, I've got width, okay, and I've got height. Okay, so remember the volume of a cube, we only need to worry about a cube, is length times width times height. And you might be able to see where I'm going to go with this. Okay, so we need to think the same type of thing. If we had a cube like so, and each side was 2 centimeters, well, our volume would be 2 times 2 times 2 centimeters is going to give us 8 centimeters cubed. Okay, well now we go, oh, well, I want to convert that to millimeters cubed. So cubed. Right, well, again, think how many sides do I have? Well, I need to convert this side that's 2 centimeters into 20 millimeters. 20 millimeters. 20 millimeters. Okay, and then I could multiply them all. Well, I know then that I'm going to have 20 times 20 times 20 means I'm going to have 8,000 millimeters cubed. Okay. Now again, you're going to see this is coming in very, very similar, okay, to what we just did with our area for our volume. Okay. So this time though, we're going to say we don't have our dimensions. We just have a quantity. So in this case, I'm going to say, and this is a good example, 7 centimeters cubed. And I want to convert that to millimeters cubed. Okay, well, I need to think, it's a volume. Okay, it's got how many dimensions? Well, it's got 3. It actually tells us in our units, okay, that we've got 3 dimensions. That means that I need to do my conversion from centimeters to millimeters 3 times. So that is times by 10 for our length, times by 10 for our width, times by 10 for our height. Well, 10 times 10 times 10 is the same as timesing by 1,000. So if I'm going to convert centimeters cubed to millimeters cubed, okay, I'll have to times by 1,000. So that means 7 times 1,000 is going to give me 7,000 millimeters cubed. Okay. And if I need to go the other way, I would, if needing to divide, so I'll do that. So we need to divide by 1,000 this time. So we need to think, How do I convert between centimeters to millimeters? How many dimensions do I have? Well, it tells us in our units. Okay, so let's think another one. Let's think I'm going to convert meters cubed to centimeters cubed. Right, and let's say we've got 4 meters. Right, again, the dimensions don't matter. And you think, well, to convert meters to centimeters, I need times by 100, and that'll be for the length, times by 100 for the width, times by 100 for the height. Okay, well, that's going to give us 1 million. Okay, and I know that because 100 times 100 times 100, well, 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. And now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 zeros. So that's a million. So 4 meters cubed to centimeters cubed will be 4 times a million, which gives me 4 million centimeters cubed. Okay, we'll do one more. Okay, we'll make it slightly trickier for this one. Okay, we're going to say now that I've got 5.73 meters cubed, and I need to go to millimeters cubed. Okay, right, here we go. So meters to millimeters, we know we need to go and times it by 1,000, because 1 meter equals 1,000 millimeters. Okay, so I need to do it for my length. So I'm going to times by 1,000. I'll do it by my width, which is times by 1,000. Then I'm going to do it by my height, which is times by 1,000. Okay, 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 zeros. And that gets us to 1 billion. So there's actually 1 billion cubic millimeters in 1 cubic meter. That means I've got times 5.73 by 1 billion. That means I've got to move the decimal point to the right 9 places. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It is there. Every dip, put a 0. And we're done. Look at that. So we are 5.73 billion millimeters cubed. Okay. And I knocked my camera. So hopefully, okay, that helps you out. So remember how many times you need to multiply with that conversion is given by our units up there. Okay, that's a real key to remember how to do these. Okay, so look, hopefully that helps you out with your conversion between your different square and cube units.